The alien ships came without warning. They filled the sky like a dark cloud that blocked the sun. People all over Earth stopped what they were doing and looked up. Some prayed. Some cried. Most just stood there, unable to believe what they were seeing. The Dominion had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had conquered 17 different species. They had never lost a war. Their soldiers moved like machines, perfect and deadly. Their weapons could turn cities to dust. Their ships could crack planets in half. Admiral Zyrith stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked down at the blue planet below. He had done this many times before. He knew exactly how it would go. The primitive species would panic. Their leaders would beg for mercy. Within a few days, Earth would belong to the Dominion. He sent the standard message: surrender or die. Simple and clear. 3 days passed. No answer came. Zyrith felt something he had not felt in centuries. Curiosity. Why were these humans taking so long? Did they not understand their situation? Did they think they could fight? Deep underground, in a bunker beneath the mountains of Switzerland, the leaders of Earth gathered around a long table. Presidents, prime ministers, generals, and scientists. They had argued for 3 days straight. Some wanted to surrender. Some wanted to fight. None of them had a plan that would work. General Catherine Price waited for them to stop talking. She was 62 years old, with gray hair and cold eyes. She had spent her entire life fighting wars. She had never lost one. But she knew that this was different. This was not a war they could win with tanks and planes and brave soldiers. When the room finally went quiet, she stood up. "They expect us to fight like civilized people," she said. "They expect armies and strategies and rules. They've seen it all before. They know how to beat it." She pressed a button and faces appeared on the screen behind her. Men and women with empty eyes and strange smiles. Some of them were laughing. Some of them looked hungry. "We are going to give them something they have never seen." The room went very quiet. "These are not soldiers," Price continued. "These are the most dangerous humans alive. Murderers, psychopaths, people who kill not because they have to, but because they want to. People who enjoy causing pain." A senator from America stood up. His face was pale. "You cannot be serious. These are monsters. They belong in cages, not in uniforms." "The aliens are coming to put all of us in cages," Price replied. "Or worse. These monsters are only chance." The argument lasted another day. In the end, they voted yes. Not because they believed it would work. Because they had no other choice. The Icarus Protocol had been a secret for 40 years. It was a plan so dark that most governments had refused to believe it existed. The idea was simple but terrible. Take the worst criminals. The ones with no conscience. The ones who scared even other criminals. Train them just enough to point them in the right direction. Then let them loose. Lieutenant Colonel Danny Marsh was the first to volunteer. He was 45 years old and had been in military prison for 7 years. During a war in South America, he had killed 19 enemy soldiers in one night. Not in battle. He had hunted them down one by one while they slept. He had taken his time. He had enjoyed it. The military had given him a medal, then put him in chains when they found out how much he had enjoyed it. Now they needed him again. Danny stood in the prison yard as the transport ship landed. A young officer walked toward him with a folder in his hands. "Lieutenant Colonel Marsh, you have been selected for a special mission. If you accept, your sentence will be suspended. If you refuse, you will remain here until you die." Danny smiled. It was not a nice smile. What kind of mission? The kind where you get to do what you do best. No rules, no limits, no one watching. Danny's smile grew wider. "Where do I sign?" They gathered 200 of them in the first week. Maria Santos, who had killed 6 people with a kitchen knife because they had hurt her family. She had not just killed them. She had made it last for hours. Pete Kowalski, who had been the best demolitions expert in the military until he started blowing up buildings with people still inside. He said he liked the way they screamed. Nina Blake, who had trained as a doctor before discovering that she enjoyed causing pain more than healing it. The things she had done to her patients were still classified. They were given simple black uniforms with no badges or ranks. They were given weapons but very little training. They did not need training. They already knew how to hurt people. Danny Marsh stood before them in a gray hangar. Behind him, the transport ship Pale Horse waited with its engines running. "You all know why you are here," he said. "The government needs killers. Not soldiers. Killers. They want us to do the things that normal people cannot do. They want us to make the aliens afraid." He paused and looked at the faces watching him. Some were excited. Some were hungry. None of them were afraid. "Here's the deal. We go up there. We find the enemy. We do whatever we want to them. No one is going to stop us. No one is going to punish us. For the first time in our lives, we are free." Maria Santos raised her hand. "What if we want to come back?" Danny laughed. "Why would you want to come back? Up there, we are gods. Down here, we are prisoners. I know which one I choose." The Pale Horse lifted off at midnight. Inside, 200 killers sat in silence, thinking about what was coming. Some of them sharpened their knives. Some of them cleaned their guns. Some of them just smiled at nothing. General Price watched the ship disappear into the clouds. Beside her, a young aide shifted nervously. "Do you think this will work?" he asked. Price did not answer for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was tired. "I do not know if it will work. I only know that we have let something terrible loose on the galaxy. If we win, history will call us heroes. If we lose, history will not exist to judge us." The Pale Horse entered hyperspace. Earth's first weapon had been launched. Not a missile. Not a bomb. Something much worse. 200 humans, who had been waiting their entire lives for permission to become the monsters they already were. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. The news spread faster than any ship could travel. Helios 7 had fallen. 10,000 Dominion soldiers killed by 200 humans. The official reports were classified, but rumors found their way into every corner of the galaxy. They said the humans did not fight. They hunted. They said the humans did not kill. They played. They said the humans smiled while they worked. High Chancellor Morpeth sat in his throne room and read the reports over and over again. He had ruled the Dominion for 300 years. He had overseen the conquest of 5 species. He had never felt fear. He felt it now. "This is impossible," said Admiral Zyrith. He stood before the throne, his scales pale with worry. "No species fights like this. There must be some mistake in the reports." Morpeth threw the datapad at him. "Read it yourself. The survivors are still screaming. Some of them have not stopped since they escaped. Medical officers say they may never recover." General Thoven stepped forward. He was the commander of ground forces, a warrior who had killed thousands of enemies with his own hands. "They are animals. Beasts without honor. We will crush them like the vermin they are. Will we?" Morpeth asked quietly. "How?" "Our soldiers refuse to fight them. 3 garrisons have surrendered without firing a shot. The humans have not even arrived yet. Just the rumor of their coming is enough." More ships had launched from Earth. The Crimson Dawn, the Silent Scream, the Laughing Reaper. Each one carried another group of humans. Each one targeted a different Dominion world. The pattern was clear. Earth was not trying to win a war. Earth was trying to break the Dominion spirit. It was working. On Kepler Station, a massive space installation, 40 humans had caused a complete evacuation. They never fired a weapon. They never killed anyone. They just left notes. We are watching you. We know where you sleep. Your family is beautiful. It would be sad if something happened to them. The station commander found a message on his pillow one morning. It contained his name, his home address, and a date. Tomorrow. He ordered everyone to leave within the hour. 50,000 people abandoned the station because of 40 humans and some pieces of paper. On the industrial world of Forge 9, a woman named Lisa Vance worked alone. She had been an assassin before the war. Corporations had paid her to remove their competitors. She was very good at her job. Now she worked for Earth, and her job was bigger. She destroyed 17 factories in 3 weeks. She killed 400 overseers, all of them important, all of them supposedly protected. She was never seen. She was never caught. The workers on Forge 9 started calling her the ghost. They told stories about her late at night. Some of them hoped she would come for their masters. Others prayed she would not come for them. The Galactic Council watched all of this with growing concern. The council was made up of 12 species who had joined together for protection and trade. The Dominion was their strongest member. If the Dominion fell, the whole structure would collapse. Ambassador Vrel of the Kortham people requested an emergency meeting. She was small and blue with large eyes that showed every emotion. Right now, those eyes showed fear. We must reconsider our alliance with the Dominion, she said. The humans are winning, not through strength, but through terror. If we stand with the Dominion, we become their targets. If we step back, perhaps they will leave us alone. You speak of cowardice, growled the Thornax ambassador. His people were warriors, almost as fierce as the Dominion. We do not run from battle. Then go fight them, Vrel replied. Go to Helia 7 and see what remains of 10,000 Dominion soldiers. Go to Kepler Station and see what 40 humans did without firing a shot. Tell me again that this is a battle we can win. The council argued for 3 days. In the end, 5 species withdrew their support from the Dominion. 3 others began secret talks with Earth. The rest waited to see what would happen. General Catherine Price received the messages in her bunker. Alien ambassadors wanted to negotiate. They wanted to know Earth's terms. They wanted to make deals. She smiled, but it was not a happy smile. They are starting to understand. The Dominion conquered through strength. We are conquering through fear. Fear is stronger. Her aide looked uncomfortable. General, some of the reports from our teams are disturbing. The things they are doing out there. Even by our standards, it is extreme. Price turned to face him. Her eyes were cold. What did you expect? We sent killers to do a killer's job. We gave them permission to be what they are. We cannot control them now. We can only hope they stay pointed at the enemy. More ships launched. More humans joined the fight. Not all of them were killers. Some were hackers who broke into Dominion systems and spread chaos. Some were engineers who sabotaged ships and stations. Some were doctors who knew exactly how to cause pain without causing death. Earth was fighting with everything it had. Not its best. Its worst. Danny Marsh and his team moved from world to world. Each conquest was more terrible than the last. He had stopped pretending to be a soldier. He called himself a hunter now. The galaxy was his hunting ground. On one planet, he let all the prisoners go free, but left the guards alive. He wanted them to tell the story. On another planet, he captured the garrison commander and broadcast his interrogation across every channel. The things Nina Blake did to that commander were shown in every home on every Dominion world. Recruitment for the Dominion military dropped to almost zero. Who would volunteer to fight creatures like these? Better to stay home. Better to hide. Better to pray the humans never came to your world. The Dominion was not losing battles. They were losing the will to fight. Morpheth called another war council. His advisors had no answers. His generals had no plans. His admirals had no hope. "There is one option remaining," said a quiet voice from the corner. It was Overseer Kryn, head of special projects. He was thin and pale and rarely spoke. When he did, people listened. "The Void Stalkers," Kryn continued, "our finest warriors. Genetically enhanced. Psychologically conditioned. They have never failed a mission. They have never known fear." "The Void Stalkers are expensive," Morpheth replied. "We have only 500 of them. Then send 300. That should be enough to deal with these human animals." Thovin laughed. 300 Void Stalkers against a few dozen humans? That is not a battle. That is an execution. Kryn did not smile. "Let us hope so. Because if the Void Stalkers fail, we have nothing left." The order was given. 300 of the Dominions, most dangerous warriors, were assembled and sent to the colony world of New Haven. Intelligence. Reports said a team of 30 humans was operating. There. Danny Marsh received word of their coming. He gathered his team and told them the news. "They are sending their best," he said. Finally, something interesting. Maria Santos sharpened her knife. "How good are they?" "The best the Dominion has. Enhanced bodies. Enhanced minds. Trained from birth to kill." Pete Kowalski grinned. "Sounds like fun." Nina Blake looked up from her medical kit. "I have always wanted to study enhanced physiology. This will be educational." Danny Marsh looked at his team. 30 humans against 300 super soldiers. The odds were terrible. The situation was impossible. He had never been happier. "Get some rest," he said. "Tomorrow we show the galaxy what humans are really capable of." The battle for New Haven was about to begin. The planet Helia 7 was a quiet world. Green fields stretched to the horizon. Small villages dotted the landscape. The native people, called the Malori, worked in the fields from sunrise to sunset. They had done this for 300 years, ever since the Dominion had conquered them. Commander Vethkal ran the garrison on Helia 7. He was old for his species, with gray scales and tired eyes. He had been stationed here for 20 years. Nothing ever happened. The Malori were broken. They caused no trouble. They paid their taxes. They bowed their heads when soldiers walked past Dot. It was the most boring job in the Empire. When the strange ship appeared in orbit, Vethkal was eating his dinner. A junior officer burst into his quarters with fear on his face. "Commander, an unknown vessel has entered the system. It is not responding to hails." Vethkal sighed and put down his fork. "What kind of vessel?" "Small, only one ship. Our scanners say it is from the planet the fleet is attacking. The one called Earth." Vethkal almost laughed. One small ship against his garrison of 10,000 soldiers. This would be over quickly. Send 200 troops to intercept when it lands. Capture the crew alive if possible. The High Council will want to question them. The human ship did not try to hide. It flew straight down through the atmosphere and landed in the middle of a crop field. The Malori farmers ran away as fast as they could. They had learned long ago that strange things meant pain. 200 Dominion soldiers surrounded the ship. They were well-trained and well-armed. They had fought dozens of species. They were not afraid of anything. The ship's door opened. A single human stepped out. He was tall with dark hair and a smile that showed too many teeth. He wore a simple black uniform with no badges. Danny Marsh looked at the 200 soldiers pointing weapons at him. He did not raise his hands. He did not look worried. He just smiled. "Hello there," he said. "We've been looking forward to meeting you." The lead soldier stepped forward. "You are under arrest. Surrender your weapons and come with us." Danny tilted his head like a curious dog. "No, I do not think I will do that. You are surrounded. You cannot win." Danny's smile grew wider. "Who said anything about winning?" The lights on the ship went dark. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then the screening started. They came out of the ship like shadows, silent and fast. Nina Blake was the first to draw blood. She had studied alien anatomy on the journey. She knew exactly where it cut to cause the most pain without killing. The soldier she grabbed lived for almost a minute, screaming the entire time. Pete Kowalski had brought special toys. Small bombs that did not kill, but took away arms and legs. He threw them into the crowd of soldiers and laughed as they exploded. Maria Santos worked with her knife. She had always preferred blades to guns. They were more personal. You could feel the life leaving your enemy. She moved through the soldiers like a dancer, cutting and slicing and smiling. The 200 Dominion soldiers died in less than 10 minutes. Danny Marsh did not participate in the killing. He just watched. He was the commander. His job was to point his people in the right direction. They did not need his help with the actual work. When it was over, he walked among the bodies. Some of his people were arranging them in patterns. Others were writing messages in the dirt using alien blood. They had discussed this on the journey. Terror was a weapon. Dead bodies told a story. The right story could win wars. Vethkal received the report an hour later. 200 soldiers sent. 0 survivors. 0 human casualties. He did not believe it. He sent 500 more. They found the first group arranged in circles. Their bodies posed like they were dancing. Messages had been carved into the ground. "We see you. We are coming. Run if you want." It will not help. The 500 soldiers spread out to search. They moved carefully, weapons ready. They were trained for this. They were not afraid. They should have been afraid. The humans did not fight like soldiers. They did not form lines or take positions. They hunted. They stalked. They waited in the shadows until a soldier was alone. Then they struck. Quick and brutal. Bodies started appearing in strange places. Hanging from trees. Floating in wells. Sitting in chairs with their eyes removed. Each one had a note attached. One of many. "Your turn is coming. Sweet dreams." By morning, the 500 soldiers were dead. The humans had not lost a single person. Vethkal locked himself in the command center. He was shaking. He had fought in wars before. He had seen death before. But this was different. This was not war. This was a nightmare. He sent a message to Fleet Command. His hands trembled as he typed. "These are not soldiers. They do not fight like any species we have encountered. They are hunting us for entertainment. They enjoy causing fear. They enjoy causing pain. I am requesting immediate evacuation." The response came within an hour. "Hold your position. Reinforcements are being considered." Reinforcements were being considered, not sent. Considered. Vethkal knew what that meant. The fleet was busy with the invasion of Earth. Helios 7 was not important enough to save. He was on his own. The humans took their time with the rest of the garrison. They could have finished in a day. They chose to take a week. Every night, soldiers disappeared. Every morning, their bodies were found in terrible positions. The survivors stopped sleeping. They jumped at every shadow. Some of them shot each other by accident. Some of them shot themselves on purpose. On the 7th day, Danny Marsh walked through the front gate of the garrison. He was alone. He was not armed. He was still smiling. The remaining soldiers, Less than 1,000 now, pointed every weapon they had at him. Danny stopped in the middle of the courtyard. He looked around at the terrified faces. Then he spoke in a calm, friendly voice. I have a message from my people to yours. We are not your enemy. Your commanders are your enemy. They sent you here to die. We are just doing our job. But here's the thing about our job. We enjoy it. We really, really enjoy it. He pointed at the command center. Your commander is hiding in there. He's been hiding for a week while you died. He does not care about you. He never did. So here is my offer. Open that door for me, and I will let you live. Keep it closed, and we will have to do this the hard way. No one moved for a long moment. Then, slowly, a soldier walked to the command center door. He entered the code. The door slid open. Danny Marsh walked inside. The door closed behind him. The screaming lasted for almost an hour. When it finally stopped, Danny walked back out. He was covered in blood, but he was still smiling. Thank you for your cooperation, he said. You are free to go. Tell everyone what you saw here. Tell them what happens when you fight humans. Tell them we are coming for all of you. The surviving soldiers ran. They did not stop running until they reached the spaceport. They stole every ship they could find and fled into the stars. The Mallory watched from their villages as the humans cleaned up. Some of them cried with relief. Others were too scared to move. Their conquerors were gone, but their liberators were somehow worse. Danny Marsh found a Mallory elder hiding in a barn. He crouched down so they were at the same level. Do not be afraid, he said. We are not here for you. We are here for them. You are free now. The elder looked at him with wide eyes. What are you? Danny thought about the question for a moment. Then he smiled that terrible smile. We are humanity's answer to the darkness. And we have just gotten started. New Haven was a beautiful world. Thick forests covered the mountains. Crystal clear rivers cut through green valleys. The colonists who had lived there once had called it paradise. Now it was a battlefield. The Void Stalkers landed at dawn. 300 of them, each one perfect in ways that nature never intended. Their bodies were stronger, faster, and tougher than any natural creature. Their minds had been shaped from childhood to feel nothing but the joy of killing. They did not know fear. They did not know mercy. They did not know doubt. Commander Sethric led them. He was the oldest Void Stalker alive, veteran of 40 campaigns. He had personally killed more than 10,000 enemies. His body was covered in scars, each one a trophy from a worthy opponent. He gathered his warriors in the landing zone and addressed them. The targets are human, primitive species, unenhanced bodies, limited weapons. Intelligence suggests 30 hostiles in the area. He paused and smiled. This will be over by sunset. Kill them all. Leave nothing behind. The Void Stalkers spread out into the forest. They moved in perfect formation, covering each other, watching every shadow. They were careful. They were professional. They were ready for anything, except for Danny Marsh. The first Void Stalker died an hour after landing. He was at the back of his unit, covering the rear. One moment he was there. The next moment he was gone. His teammates found him 10 minutes later, hanging from a tree by his own intestines. A note was pinned to his chest. Welcome to New Haven. We hope you enjoy your stay. Sethrak received the report without emotion. They are trying to frighten us. It will not work. Continue the search. The second Void Stalker died 2 hours later. Then the third. Then the fourth. Each death was different. Each death was creative. Each death came with a message. One down, 299 to go. Getting closer. Can you hear us breathing? By nightfall, 12 Void Stalkers were dead. The humans had not been seen. Not once. They were ghosts in the forest, invisible and everywhere. Sethric called a halt. "We make camp here. Double guards. No one sleeps alone." They set up a defensive perimeter. Motion sensors. Trip wires. Thermal scanners. Nothing could approach without being detected. At midnight, the screaming started. It came from the middle of the camp. A void stalker named Rex was sitting with his squad, eating his rations. He dropped his food and began to scream. He tore at his own face with his claws. He gouged out his own eyes. His squad mates tried to restrain him, but he was too strong. By the time they knocked him unconscious, he had ripped his own throat out. Nina Blake watched from the darkness, a small smile on her face. The poison she had put in his food was something special. It did not kill the body. It killed the mind. Made the victim see things that were not there. Feel things that were not real. Turn against themselves. She had 6 more doses ready. The next morning, the Void Stalkers found their communications equipment destroyed. Someone had entered the camp during the night, walked past hundreds of guards, and sabotaged their only link to the fleet. They were alone. Sethrak felt something unfamiliar stirring in his chest. It took him a moment to recognize it. Fear. For the first time in his enhanced life, he was afraid. He pushed the feeling down. We continue the mission. Find the humans. Kill them all. The hunt went on for 3 weeks. It was not a battle. It was a war of shadows and whispers. The Void Stalkers were the best warriors in the galaxy, but they could not fight an enemy they could not see. Every day, more of them died. Not in glorious combat, but in traps and ambushes and accidents that were not accidents. Pete Kowalski had turned the forest into a maze of explosives. Step on the wrong patch of ground and your legs disappeared. Touch the wrong tree and fire consumed you. Maria Santos worked at night. She moved through the camp like a shadow, her knife finding throats before anyone could scream. In the morning, the Void Stalkers would find their brothers dead in their beds, their eyes removed, their weapons placed neatly beside them. Danny Marsh did not hide. He walked through the forest in broad daylight, alone and unarmed. The Void Stalkers saw him sometimes, a figure moving between the trees. They fired at him, but he was never there when the shots landed. He was always smiling, always watching. It drove them mad. By the end of the 2nd week, the Void Stalkers had lost half their number. Some to the humans, some to each other. The fear had broken something inside them. They started seeing enemies everywhere. They started shooting at shadows. They started killing their own. Sethrak tried to hold them together, but it was no use. These were warriors who had never known defeat. They did not know how to handle failure. They did not know how to process fear. Their perfect minds were cracking under the pressure. On the 15th day, a Void Stalker named Jenth walked into the forest and never came back. He left a note saying he was going to find the humans and kill them himself. His body was found 3 days later, arranged in a peaceful pose with flowers in his hands. The note beside him said, "He asked us to stop. We said no." On the 18th day, 30 Void Stalkers surrendered. They walked out of the forest with their hands raised, weapons abandoned. They begged the humans to end it quickly. Danny Marsh met them at the edge of the clearing. He looked at them for a long time without speaking. These were the Dominion's finest warriors, the best of the best, and they were begging him for death. "Go home," he said finally. "Tell your masters what happened here. Tell them this is what happens when they fight humans. Tell them we are coming for all of them." The Void Stalkers ran. They did not look back. Sethrak and his remaining warriors made their last stand on the 21st day. They had been pushed to the top of a mountain, surrounded on all sides. There were fewer than 50 of them left. Danny Marsh walked up the mountain alone. He did not bring weapons. He did not bring backup. He just walked, his hands in his pockets, whistling a tune that none of the aliens recognized. Sethrak met him at the summit. The Void Stalker commander was wounded and exhausted, but he still held his blade ready. "You are brave," Sethrak said. "Or foolish. Coming here alone." Danny smiled. "I am not alone. I am never alone. My people are everywhere. In the trees. In the shadows. In your nightmares. Why do you do this? Why do you fight like this? There is no honor in what you do. No glory." Danny's smile faded. For a moment, something cold and empty showed in his eyes. "Honor? Glory? Those are words that mean nothing to me. I do not fight for Earth. I do not fight for humanity. I fight because this is what I am. I am a monster. Your masters tried to conquer my world, so now I am loose in the galaxy, doing what monsters do." He stepped closer to Sethrak. "You were made to be perfect warriors. We were born broken, and broken things are so much harder to stop." Sethrak raised his blade. "Then let us end this." The battle lasted less than a minute. Sethrak was enhanced, trained, and desperate. Danny Marsh was just a human with a knife he pulled from his boot, thought it was not enough. Sethrak died on his knees, looking up at the human who had beaten him. His last words were a question. "What are you?" Danny wiped his blade on the dead commander's uniform. "I am the answer to a question your people should never have asked. You wanted to know what humans would do when pushed to the edge. Now, you know. 8 humans survived the Battle of New Haven. They had killed nearly 300 of the Dominion's elite warriors. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The Void Stalkers had failed. Nothing could stop the humans now. On Earth, General Price watched the reports and felt something she had not expected. Not pride. Not satisfaction. Fear. Danny Marsh and his people had won an impossible victory. But looking at the footage from New Haven, Price wondered if they had created something they could not control. The war was almost over. The question now was what would happen when the monsters came home. 1 year after the first human ship launched, the war was over. Not because Earth had conquered the Dominion. Not because battles had been won or lost. The war ended because the Dominion was too afraid to continue fighting. High Chancellor Morpeth stood before his war council for the last time. The room was half empty. Many of his advisors had fled. Some had been killed by human teams that somehow knew where they lived. Others had simply disappeared, too afraid to stay in positions of power. "We must seek peace," Morpeth said. His voice was tired. His scales had turned gray. He looked like he had aged 100 years in 12 months. "The humans have broken us? Not our armies. Not our fleets. Us. Our people are afraid to leave their homes. Our soldiers refuse to fight. Our allies have abandoned us. If we continue this war, there will be nothing left." No one argued. There was nothing left to argue about. The message was sent to Earth. The Dominion requested a ceasefire. They were willing to negotiate terms. General Catherine Price received the message in her bunker. She read it 3 times, then sat back in her chair and closed her eyes. They had won. Against all odds, against the most powerful empire in the galaxy. Earth had won, but victory did not feel like she expected. The reports from the front lines sat on her desk. Stories of what the Icarus Protocol teams had done. The torture. The psychological warfare. The bodies arranged like artwork. The messages written in blood. Earth had unleashed something terrible on the galaxy. And now that something had to come home, Morpeth traveled to Earth personally. He refused to send representatives. He said he needed to see these humans with his own eyes. He needed to understand what kind of species could produce such creatures. His shuttle landed in Geneva on a gray morning. Security was tight, but Morpeth barely noticed. He walked through the human city with wide eyes, looking at the people going about their daily lives. They seemed so normal, so ordinary. How could a species like this produce monsters like the ones he had fought? General Price met him in the conference room. She was polite and professional. Her uniform was neat. Her face showed nothing. Morpeth found her more terrifying than any of the killers his forces had faced. "You wanted peace," Price said. "Let us discuss terms." The negotiations were short. Morpeth agreed to everything: reparations, territory, a guarantee that no Dominion vessel would ever enter human space again. He signed document after document without argument. Finally, he made one request. "Control them," he said. "The ones you send against us. Keep them on your world. Never let them loose in the galaxy again." Price looked at him for a long moment. "We make no promises about the future, but for now, we will bring them home." Morpeth nodded slowly. "I have seen many species in my long life. Warriors, conquerors, predators. I thought I understood violence. I thought I understood cruelty." He paused and met her eyes. "I was wrong. Your species has shown me something new. Something terrible. I do not know if it is a strength or a weakness, but I know one thing for certain. The galaxy will never forget what you have done, and we will never stop being afraid of you." The treaty was signed. The war was over. Transport ships launched to bring the Icarus Protocol teams home. Some came willingly. Others had to be convinced. A few never came back at all, disappearing into the vast galaxy to continue their work on their own terms. Maria Santos returned to Earth and accepted a pardon. She said she was tired. She said she wanted a quiet life. No one believed her, but no one tried to stop her. She bought a small house in the countryside and was never heard from again. Pete Kowalski refused the pardon. He said prison was better than freedom. In prison, someone was watching him. Someone was keeping him controlled. Without that control, he was afraid of what he might do. They put him back in his cell, and he seemed almost happy. Nina Blake disappeared. Her transport landed in Nevada, but she was not on board. Some said she had slipped away during the journey. Others said she had never intended to return. Medical supplies started going missing from hospitals across 3 continents. Bodies started appearing in strange places, all of them dead from unknown causes, that no one could prove it was her. No one tried very hard to investigate. Danny Marsh was the last to return. He walked into General Price's office on a summer afternoon, still wearing his black uniform, still smiling that terrible smile. Price offered him a medal, the highest honor Earth could give. She offered him a full pardon for all his crimes, past and future. She offered him a position in the military, a chance to train new soldiers, to pass on what he had learned. Danny turned down everything. "I did not do it for Earth," he said. "I did not do it for humanity. I did it because you let me off the leash. For 1 year, I was free. I did what I was born to do. I was happy." Price studied him carefully. "What will you do now?" Danny shrugged. "The galaxy is big. Lots of dark corners. Lots of things that need breaking." He leaned forward, and his smile widened. "Do you know what I learned out there, General? I learned that the universe is full of civilizations that have never known real fear. They build their empires and conquer their worlds and think they understand violence. They do not. They have never met something like me." He stood up and walked to the door. "I am patient. I can wait. But sooner or later, someone out there will make the same mistake the Dominion made. They will threaten Earth. They will think they can win." He looked back at Price one last time. "And when that happens, you know where to find me." He left the building and vanished into the city. His file was sealed. His location was marked as unknown. No one tried to track him. Perhaps they were afraid of what they would find. The Galactic Council met 1 month after the treaty was signed. Representatives from dozens of species gathered to discuss the human question. What should they do about this new power? How could they protect themselves? The debate lasted for days. In the end, they reached a decision that surprised no one. Humanity was added to the protected species list. Not to protect humans, but to protect everyone else from them. First contact protocols were updated with new warnings. Species origin, Sol 3. Threat level, existential. Approach with extreme caution. Do not provoke under any circumstances. If conflict appears imminent, retreat immediately. Do not engage. Do not challenge. Do not underestimate. The warnings continued with a detailed list of human capabilities. But the final note was the most chilling. Remember, the humans we faced were not their soldiers. They were their criminals. Their broken ones. Their monsters. These were the humans that other humans were afraid of. If their worst could destroy us, imagine what their best could do. Earth's seat at the galactic table was never challenged again. Years passed. The scars of the war faded. New generations grew up in a galaxy that knew peace. Mostly because everyone was too afraid to start another war. But in dark corners of space, in places no map showed, stories were still told about the human monsters. About the smiling man who walked through fire. About the woman who could kill with a touch. About the creatures that came from a small blue world and taught the galaxy the true meaning of fear. And sometimes, on quiet nights, travelers would see a ship in the distance. A small vessel with no markings, heading toward trouble. Carrying passengers who smiled too wide and laughed at things that were not funny. The monsters were still out there. Waiting, watching, ready. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Do not threaten Earth. Do not challenge humanity. Because somewhere in the darkness, Danny Marsh was still smiling. And he was very, very patient. On Earth, General Catherine Price retired from military service. She wrote her memoirs, but the most important chapters were classified. She died peacefully in her sleep at the age of 93. Her last words, spoken to a nurse who did not understand them, were a warning. We won the war, but we created something we cannot control. Someday, it will come back to haunt us. When it does, I hope someone is ready. The nurse wrote down the words, but did not know what to do with them. She filed them away with the rest of the general's papers. They were never seen again. But somewhere in the vast galaxy, Danny Marsh read about the general's death. He raised a glass in her honor. Thank you, he whispered to the stars. Thank you for letting me be what I am. Then he turned his ship toward a distant world where a new empire was rising. A new species that thought it could conquer. A new challenge that needed his special attention. The galaxy had not seen the last of humanity's monsters, thought it had only seen the beginning.